I'm Margaret Ryan in Barcelona. I'm talking with Artur Runge-Metzger. He's the chief negotiator for the European Commission. Thank you so much for talking to us tonight.
Good evening.
Is it true that European negotiators now are working on a scaled back version of a climate deal here in Copenhagen that can be signed without numerical commitments from the US?
No, we are not working on that at the moment. I think what we are working on is still towards a fully fledged treaty, but I think what we realize, and many people tell us in the negotiating room, is that they don't think it's probably possible to reach that fully fledged treaty in Copenhagen this year. So we will have to see how far we will get in Copenhagen and then decide what the outcome and the legal nature of that outcome will be.
Let's talk about a political agreement versus a legally binding agreement. What is the distinction being made there?
I think the real distinction we are looking at is are we going to get something which is called a protocol, something we had some time ago in Kyoto, or is it something like a set of decisions which will also facilitate implementation? In both cases, these things will have to be agreed by all the parties in the room. So it's an agreement. It shows the political will of the parties to move the process forward.
What do you think, looking forward now, what is possible? Let's start here in Barcelona. What's possible to get in the next 24 hours?
I think what we want from Barcelona is streamlined text you can further work on for a week in Copenhagen and then present to ministers. That should have very clear options, and then the compromising could really start at the high level on the most difficult issues.
Okay, well, looking forward to Copenhagen, what do you think is actually possible there, given what you're hearing here?
I think what we are looking at is an agreement, a framework agreement, which would have all the building blocks that were agreed in Bali in it, and it would allow for rapid implementation already in the year 2010. And then I think what we need is a deadline for further talks in order to reach to that fully fledged treaty in the year 2010.
Do you think in Copenhagen an agreement can be reached on actually cutting carbon or carbon targets, especially with the US situation, among the things that are going to have to wait for 2010?
I'm still hopeful that we can have emission reduction targets for all the developed countries, and that would include also the United States.
Even with the US Senate not having acted yet, you think it's still possible to get that?
I think it's in the end a political judgment that will have to be made by the President in terms of what confidence he has, how far the legislative process has gone forward. It's very hard for me in Barcelona to estimate whether that will be possible or not, but I'm hopeful still.
Well, even going forward, how do you reconcile the difference between demands from such as the G77 for at least 40% cuts, and I think Norway has offered to go that far, but no one else. I mean, the high number for the EU is now 30%, and that would require some effort. How do you bring those sides together?
I think you will only bring these interests together if you have a package which in the end will give everybody in the room something what they are looking for. I think it's not only the emission reduction targets developing countries are looking for, but they also look for assistance to reduce emissions in their own countries. They are looking for assistance when it comes to helping them to adapt to inevitable climate change.
Well, the EU has been talking about interim funding starting next year. Would the EU go forward? We were talking, I think, of the 5 to 7 billion euro range. Would that go forward regardless of the form of the agreement in Copenhagen?
We think that it is necessary to have immediate implementation after Copenhagen. So from our side, we are certainly willing to contribute to a financial package that will make it possible for developing countries to prepare themselves and also to take action when it comes to climate change.
Next 24 hours, what are you going to be doing?
Oh, first thing I'm going to sleep and then work throughout the day tomorrow. We'll want to talk to as many people from the developing countrysides, industrialized countries, and then have a clear picture hopefully when I leave for the first week in Copenhagen.
Okay, well tell me, between now and Copenhagen, are there meetings or in other venues which may bring progress on some of these knotty issues?
Yes, there will be, I think, quite a number of meetings during the next weeks. Bilaterally, we will meet with different countries around the world, but also there will be a PrepCom meeting in Copenhagen, which brings together, I don't know, around 30 to 40 ministers. Another major economies forum is going to be done during that time, so there will be a lot of high-level talks in order to keep up the political momentum so that we land safely in Copenhagen.
Okay, so you still think that you think an agreement is going to come out of there, but it may not be that fully fledged treaty that Bali was aiming for?
Exactly.
Okay, Dr. Runge-Metzger, thank you so much for talking to us today.
Bye.
In Barcelona, I'm Margaret Ryan, Clean Skies News.